Hello, I'm Adolfo from People with MS Victoria. This presentation was produced for our 2025 Living with MS conference. Let's begin with an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people as the traditional owners of the land on which we live and work. We honour their enduring connection to land, water and community, paying respect to elders past, present and emerging. Hello everyone, my talk today is about an exciting project with great potential to benefit people with multiple sclerosis. We've collaborated in a study with the nutrition researchers Dr. Barbara Rayner from Deakin University in Melbourne and Dr. Rebecca Russell from Curtin University in Perth, Western Australia. Their study referenced the earlier 2016 study by Dr. Jeffrey Beckett and Dr. Kiran Ahuja from the University of Tasmania. The study seeks to better understand the dietary recommendations found on the public internet websites so that researchers can improve nutrition interventions for people with multiple sclerosis. Let's see the context first before we go on. Here are a few things to think about. We know that a person's health is strongly affected by the nutrition. A person's food intake can be influenced by what they hear or read. Technology today is everywhere, and information and misinformation is more accessible than in the past on people's smartphone or computer screens directly. So in this scoping review study, we look at what MS-related dietary advice shows up when searching the public internet. We have a few questions, namely, have online recommendations changed from those of the 2016 internet search study? What's the reasoning behind that advice, and what sources, scientific or otherwise, if any, were used to justify such advice? To answer these questions, Drs. Brainer and Russell enlisted 3 people with MS, including myself, to collect and process the data. We collected data from website articles including advice reasoning, the qualifications of the author or the editor, and references to the sources used to write those articles. Using our insight as people with lived experience of MS, our role in the study was to capture the first 2 pages of search results, which is about 20 to 25 website addresses, and we then analysed the collected data using the same criteria as the original 2016 study. Now, just to clarify, without being too technical, a scoping review is a type of research mapping existing scientific papers to certain criteria. And in this project, we mapped the dietary advice for people with MS as found on the publicly accessible internet. Then we compare and contrast it with the 2016 study to determine the differences and report the results. By the way, if you wish to read the original 2016 study, it was republished in 2019 on the PubMed site to enable public access and download. The address is shown in the slide. I will have the slide available for you to download on our website. The processes used to collect the data are summarised in the table shown in that publication, and you can see it here. It's figure 1 on that paper. Why conduct a new study, you may ask? Well, we do know that many people with MS and or their carers actively search how to manage their MS symptoms. We, however, know less of the range, scope and quality of that advice that's served up in a search. So, knowing that Drs. Beckett and Ahuja at that moment in time referred to the fact that there is currently no scientific evidence supporting the use of specific diets in the management of multiple sclerosis, and despite the inconclusive evidence, most websites suggest disease progression and relapses in MS can be improved with diet, as well as past research indicating that the strongest dietary intake association of MS symptom improvement was actually only correlated with vitamin D and omega-3 fat intake. There were nevertheless many websites aimed at people with MS which provide advice or suggestions about what foods to include or to avoid. So what health advice value were these websites really providing? What are the 2024 study researchers interested to know? Well, essentially, it's that given there's been considerable progress in dietary research over the last 8 years, has any of this new information actually been reflected in the 2024 online advice? Well, before commenting on the preliminary results of that 2024 study, let's first take a very quick look at important features of the design. Online nutrition advice for people with MS was captured only over a few weeks in July 2024. The search process used 5 specific word associations, such as MS diet or foods for MS. Only the Google search engine was used. That's the google.com address page. We captured and saved only the first 2 standard computer screen pages of links for each search term result. Each link's page was stored as a file for data validation, and the content of each link was extracted, organized in tables, and finally analyzed. Our team of 3 was tasked with selecting 5 short search terms. These search terms we deemed as people with MS were likely to use to search the words such as MS diet, foods for MS, foods to avoid, anti-inflammatory diet, and fatigue diet. Also, only the Google Chrome internet browser was used, and only in private mode, because this would stop the browsing history from being stored onto the computer, and they're affected by the results of the subsequent searches. Our team's involvement in this research was based on our backgrounds and lived experiences. And in my case, a metabolic syndrome diagnosis a few years ago led to an interest in exploring foods to improve my health. And I had a relevant information technology experience. In other words, the research team seeks answers to questions such as, what's changed in advice since 2016? How credible is that advice with respect to accuracy and completeness? Is advice validated by the evidence-based nutrition science? So now we're in the process of comparing the advice from 2024 to that of 2016. So how are the 2 studies, 2016 and 24, different? Well, the data set is larger in 2024, but better targeted by Google's 90% share of internet searches. And the search terms are better, perhaps, informed due to our lived experiences with MS. My experience in this project was that the amount of content analysis work involved was substantially greater than we first estimated. Here I can confirm some preliminary conclusions. From a personal perspective, participating in this project has highlighted the unsatisfactory level of accurate nutrition information currently available through web searches alone, and that we need to improve the communication and access to high quality nutrition. In conclusion, I wish to thank Beck, Barbara, Michelle and Harpreet for their collaborative work ethics and professional courtesy. I thoroughly enjoyed working with them during the various phases of this project, and I do strongly encourage others with MS to participate in future research projects as our contributions will help not only ourselves but future generations to better manage the multiple sclerosis condition. Again, from a personal point of view and being informed by my wider nutrition science reading over the last few years, I guess, I've realised that to improve a person's overall health through dietary intervention, we must be guided by better, well-founded, evidence-based understanding of the actual metabolic processes. And if you're interested in further reading, I've listed a few references in the description section below, in the YouTube video description part. Thank you for listening, and please consider donating, if you can, to People with MS Victoria. We are a registered tax-deductible charity, and it will help us to continue providing our services into the future.